What is up, guys? Greg here on the Vinyl Rundown. Record Store Day. What do we have? 7 or 8 record store days this year in the 2020 year of our COVID. October 24th, Record Store Day. Another Record Store Day. I just want to go through the list real quick. Just some of the jazz and instrumental releases. So the list, as always, 2+ pages long, a couple hundred records. I'm just going to go through 6 or 7 jazzy releases real quick. So let's just start it right off here with a big one, Miles Davis, Bitches Brew. This is a special 2-record set of outtakes from Bitches Brew. And I'm sure all you guys are familiar with Bitches Brew. Rare Miles from the Bitches Brew collection. If you don't have Bitches Brew is one of Miles Davis's most important, most famous records. The record that supposedly launched the jazz fusion genre. And if you're a Miles fan, you probably already have this. If you don't have it, you should probably get a regular copy of Bitches Brew, but this one is all right also. Jazz fusion, it's kind of noodly, it's kind of very heavily improvised, more modern instruments than you normally hear from Miles. Great players on here. Does this thing list some of the players? Joe Zawinul from Weather Report, John McLaughlin on guitar, Wayne Shorter on sax, probably other people on here too, Benny Maupin, maybe Keith Jarrett. So this is a big release, and will probably sell out quickly. Love the artwork. This is an inset from the original Bitches Brew cover, one of my favorite little inset pieces right on the spine. Miles Davis double image, it's called. 2-record set on Legacy, which is part of Columbia. So definitely a big record, and looking forward to that. So I'm just going to go through the list, guys, give you a couple more quick things. I got a list. I got all my notes here, but sticking with sort of the jazz and related stuff. Okay, here we go. This is an unusual record. Not that well known of an artist, Jimmy Jeffrey, if that's how you pronounce it. Jimmy Jeffrey, and I have some of his records. I'm kind of a fan of his. He's a clarinet player, very much the West Coast cool sound, but on top of that, he's very into free improvisation. So kind of before his day in terms of where free jazz was going. And this is probably all of his tunes only. So you've got a great trio. Paul Bley, the great piano player. I think he just died recently, last couple of years. Steve Swallow, great jazz bass player. He definitely just died in the last few months. And he had just done a record album with John Scofield called Swallow Tales, of Steve Swallow's composition. So that sounds really good. I keep meaning to get my hands on that. So this is a live club gig from 1961. I listened to it a little bit online. Music is good, but the sonics probably aren't that great. This would not necessarily be the first place to start if you're new to Jimmy Jeffrey. Who else do we have? Okay, here's a great, interesting record. Philip Glass. Is it jazz? No, but it's instrumental. Pseudo-classical. Let's talk about Philip Glass. This is actually one of the more interesting releases. Koyaanisqatsi. If you don't have this record, if you haven't heard it, you have to experience it one way or the other. If you haven't experienced the movie, go get it on DVD or download it or whatever. One of the more interesting movies of its day. And Philip Glass, probably our most famous living composer of the 20th and 21st century, one of the most famous, and this is one of his most famous works. So Koyaanisqatsi, a very artsy film, a lot of quick edited time-lapse photography. Koyaanisqatsi, Navajo Indian word meaning roughly life out of balance, like the crazy world we live in. Different scenes from all over the planet. Fascinating visually, and Philip Glass's pulsating, rhythmic, minimal music really goes with it very well. So the original Koyaanisqatsi soundtrack that was recorded when this came out was a heavily edited version, 40-something minutes for soundtrack release. This is the complete score, the complete soundtrack, so 2 LP set. And it's on this interesting label called Orange Mountain Music, which really specializes in deep archiving of the whole Philip Glass oeuvre. May I use that word? The works of Philip Glass. Only 1,500 copies. Very interesting. If you're a Philip Glass fan, check it out. And if you don't know Koyaanisqatsi, definitely check it out. What else is on the list here? Okay, now we've got a couple by Dexter Gordon. Dexter Gordon, great saxophone player. This is a live gig. What the heck is this live gig? Motra, is that the way to pronounce the club in, or is that the city in Copenhagen? No, that's the club in the city of Copenhagen in Denmark, 1967. Going for a little bit of a Blue Note album cover. It's nice looking cover. I don't know the music on this per se. If you're a Dexter Gordon fan, one of the great tenor sax players, you'll probably like it. Big, beautiful, rich sound by a very elegant man. 2 LPs on Rhino Parlophone, and each side appears to only be one song. So these are long takes where he stretches out with Kenny Drew on piano, Art Taylor on drums, and there's another Dexter Gordon in here, right behind it. Next, Dexter Gordon Quartet in France. Another challenge for me to pronounce. Live at Chateau Vallon, something like that. 1978 gig. Another Dexter Gordon club gig. Not that familiar with it. Again, only 2 songs stretching out. George Gable's on piano, Rufus Reid on bass. Again, if you're a Dexter Gordon fan, probably great. But if you're new to Dexter Gordon, you probably want to start somewhere else, like in the Blue Note collection. Okay, another quick jazz. How about a couple of trombone players? This is actually a pretty interesting record. J.J. Johnson and Kay Winding, 2 of the biggest, most well-known trombone players of the jazz era. But this record is later on in their careers in the 70s. But do we have the year on this exactly here? 1970s. This is on that label CTI, Creed Taylor's label, distributed by A&M. Very funky, soulful sound. Herbie Hancock, but mostly Herbie Hancock is doing Fender Rhodes electric piano. Ron Carter, great bass player. Bob James, most of these guys. George Benson on guitar. I listened to some of this. Very, very funky. Hey, it's a Rudy Van Gelder also. Did you guys see the video I did on Rudy Van Gelder last week? The guy with the Rudy Van Gelder Legacy Project? Check that out. CTI is one of the later episodes in Rudy Van Gelder's eminent career as the great sound engineer. So CTI, their stuff is very slickly produced, up-close microphone, 70s sound, 70s vibe, but it's cool. It's funky. Check it out. You can probably check it out on YouTube, which I did, and I like the CTI stuff. It is not necessarily the same caliber as the Blue Note stuff, but it's its own kind of genre of chill jazz. Okay, what else do we got here? Going through the list, we're more than halfway done, guys. Thanks for bearing with us. Okay, here's a very important record coming out. Charles Mingus Ah Um Redo. It's not Redux, it's Redo. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce that. 1959, Charles Mingus's arguably one of his most important records. 1959, arguably the most important year in jazz releases, because we had Miles Davis' Kind of Blue, we had Giant Steps, we had with Coltrane, and we had Brubeck's Take 5, and we had Mingus Ah Um, Charles Mingus, bass player. Some of his greatest tunes are on here. Goodbye Pork Pie Hat, Better Get It in Your Soul, Fables of Fabu. Is that how you pronounce that? Fabu. This is an essential record for jazz fans, the original. On the other hand, this is one of those re-releases where they went to the vaults and said, hey, do we got any more junk to throw out there on the market for Record Store Day? So it's the original record plus another LP of outtakes. I'm not a huge fan of, hey, this track wasn't good enough to release 50 years ago, but let's throw it on the market today. Maybe somebody will go for it. So if you're a big Charles Mingus fan, you probably already have 1 or 2 copies of Mingus Ah Um. I don't know how you could get through life without it. If you're new to Charles Mingus and you really want to make the investment, why not? Anyway, let me get back to any details we might need to know on this. So it's really alternate takes on everything. And again, if somebody has the masterpiece, why do you need to see the making of the masterpiece? I don't know that we need that. If you got the Mona Lisa, do you need the sketches that went into the Mona Lisa, or the Mona Lisa that got thrown into the trash? I don't know. You tell me. Okay, almost done, guys. Only a couple more records here. And bear with me. This is one of the more interesting records. Hugo Montenegro, the very famous film composer, The Good, Bad, the Ugly. Wonderland. Who's that guy in the middle there? That is Stevie Wonder. Hugo Montenegro interprets the genius of Stevie Wonder. This record sounds really cool. I listened to it online. All the Stevie Wonder hits that were at least available back in the mid-'70s, done by Hugo Montenegro's big orchestra, but a very funky 70s soundtrack, kind of a sound like a TV show, like a Shaft, very funky wah-wah guitar and electric piano and funkified, soundtrack to the 70s. But one of the little questions is this a guy trying too hard to be hip, or was this truly hip? 50 years later, I don't think it matters. The version of Superstitious I listened to, very funky. A couple other tunes you can hear online before purchasing. So this came out in 1974, it looks like. So you gotta love Stevie Wonder, you gotta love Hugo Montenegro. Two great tastes that do, in fact, taste great together. So that one, I think, is a little bit of a sleeper, a little bit of a surprise. Okay, just one or two left, guys. Thank you for bearing with me, watching a guy scroll on the internet. What could be more exciting? Here we go. This is a really interesting record also. Ryuichi Sakamoto, who's had a huge career in pop music and film and all kinds of 80s and 90s. So now he's doing a lot of more ethereal, ambient type stuff. And this is actually a soundtrack from just one episode of a Netflix show, the Netflix show Black Mirror, which I guess has been compared to, Mueller and what's his X-Files. Couldn't think of the X-Files. Black Mirror has been compared to an updated X-Files on Netflix. Very popular show. One particular episode called Smithereens. Nothing to do with the band The Smithereens. The Smithereens are not on here doing Blood and Roses, so don't be looking for that. But I think it's very cool that in this modern age, a Netflix show can be good enough that they attract a great composer like Ryuichi Sakamoto and turn it into a record. Now, how do you get a 55-minute show to generate a 45-minute soundtrack? I don't know. This seems like a project that's probably done fairly quickly compared to your typical Ryuichi Sakamoto album. But I did give it a listen, and that it would be on the list of records I would consider. You got to walk into a record store today with a list of 10 things and hope you get one or two. So pretty much everything I'm telling you about today, I would love to get if I could. Okay, there's only one or two left, guys, and I think I need to go all the way to the last page. Guess who's on the last page, bringing up the rear with Z. Wait a minute. It's not on here. Oh, here it is. Frank Zappa with the Z. And Warren Zevon. Frank Zappa. This actually looks really interesting. The cover art is not too exciting. You can't do that on stage anymore. 2-record set came out of a 12-disc series, 6 volumes. You can't do that on stage anymore. Kind of the best tracks of Zappa live from the live, I guess, 70s. But a lot of great tunes on here, if you know. Yeah, here it is. Tracks from 69 to 84. Now, Nook rubs it in. Other things I can't even say on screen. Cosmic Debris, Plastic People. So for Zappa fans, this looks very interesting. There's so much great Zappa out there. This one's 5,000 copies, so we're expecting to sell a lot of those. Guys, that is about it. Record Store Day, again, another Record Store Day. This is the year of COVID, and also the year of so many record store days. It's kind of unbelievable. But I may see you, some of you there tomorrow morning, bright and early at 6 a.m. standing out on the cold, standing out there in line. We'll see. And again, Record Store Day is turning into this weird holiday where some record labels are just throwing junk out there, digging it out of the vaults and saying, what do we have? What do we have left? Is there anything left? We've already been through a dozen record store days. Oh, I found this under a rock. We didn't want to release it 20, 30 years ago, but let's release it now because those vinyl suckers will go for it. That's some of what Record Store Day has turned into, unfortunately. And there's, of course, those big holes that are buying stuff on at the stores and then selling it on eBay for inflated prices. You guys can go yourselves. So hopefully we don't have too much of that. But there are some really worthwhile releases here. So check it out. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you picked up at Record Store. And don't forget to subscribe to the Vinyl Rundown. Hit those notifications. Let me know what you think. And that covers it for today, guys. Thanks a lot.